Well, welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's challenging to find a time to hold these, but hopefully this one hits the maximum number of people. I'm Nancy Grimm, and I am a co-director of this NATURA Network of Networks. Also, the network that I come from and co-direct is the Urban Resilience to Extreme Sustainability Research Network in Arizona. And what we want to do here is to introduce the coordinating committee, the core team and the coordinating committee. And then when we have discussions, we would like to ask that when you ask a question that you introduce yourself and what network you're coming from. We want to save the time of going around and hitting every network, but when you speak up, please introduce the network you're from. So Timon. Timon?
Is this me? This is Timon for the Nature Conservancy in Texas.
Timon McPherson, you're muted. Elizabeth Cook.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Cook. I am at Barnard College in New York City, and I'm representing the Urban Resilience to Extreme Events Network with Nancy, as well as the long-term ecological research urban sites in the US.
Johan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yeowon Kim. I'm based at Arizona State University in Phoenix. I'm a postdoc scholar for NATURA. I also work with UREX with Nancy and Timon and Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us today.
Timon, are you there?
I am sorry, lost sound for 1 second. Hi everyone, Timon McPherson. I'm at the New School in New York and co-directing this project with Nancy Grimm.
And then let's see, we'll find out how many people we have here from the coordinating committee. I see Jordi Morato.
Yes, hello, I am Jordi Morato. I am the director of the UNESCO Chair on Sustainability at the Polytechnical University of Catalonia in Barcelona.
Thank you. Do we have, let's see, I'm trying to look down the list here. Do we have Chantal? No. Speak up if you are on the coordinating committee and I haven't introduced you, because I'm looking at the names and having trouble finding people.
Am I on the coordinating committee?
This is Ray. I don't think UREX people are
Ray.
supposed to be on this.
No.
What?
Ray, you're fine.
Yes.
You're not on the coordinating committee. Yes, I think, Marcus, is that
Yes.
you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello and happy St. Patrick's Day from Dublin. Marcus Collier from Connecting Nature, which is the Horizon 2020 project on nature-based solutions funded by the European Commission. I'm also from Trinity College in Dublin.
Great.
Thank you, Marcus. Do we have Wei Chi?
Yes.
Hi, Wei Chi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wei Chi. I'm in Beijing. I'm from the Research Center for Eco-Environmental Sciences, the Chinese Academy of Sciences. I'm an urban ecologist.
Thank you, Wei Chi. As the latest person, do we have Harriet Bulkley? No. Okay, Harriet Bulkley is also on the coordinating committee, and Chantal Van Am, and I think that's it, right? Timon?
Pippin Anderson.
Oh, Pippin. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Do we have Pippin?
No.
Okay. Okay. So moving forward, you see in front of you the webinar series agenda. And we've just introduced ourselves. And so we're going to move on to an introduction to the project and the network of networks. We'll have some more in-depth discussions about the Horizon Scan survey that you all saw, the thematic working groups and how those are supposed to work. Elizabeth will talk about that, and I'll talk a bit about the Learning Exchange Program. Timon's going to kick us off by introducing the project at a high level view. Okay, so take it away, Timon.
Great. And now is when it doesn't want to advance my slides. So 1 second, it was working just fine before. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to.
While we're waiting, I would just suggest that if you're not speaking, if you would please mute. Also, if you click on the participants button on your Zoom screen, you'll be able to see the people who are here, and you'll also have a feature where you can raise your hands. I'll try to, Johan and I will try to monitor that. And you can also put a comment in the chat. So go ahead, Timon.
Great. And did my slide advance and can everyone hear me okay?
Perfectly clear from here.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks. Just to echo Nancy, thank you so much for everyone for joining us today, wherever you are in the world. We're really excited to kick off NATURA and this being the first webinar. So I'm just going to spend a couple slides giving an overview. First of all, NATURA is really born out of observations of various kinds of urban challenges, including climate change challenges in cities and the rise, if you will, of nature-based solutions as one of the types of solutions for advancing urban resilience. It's also situated in the context of the Anthropocene, recognizing that there are multiple kinds of interwoven challenges, from persistent social inequities to challenges from climate change, but also other kinds of upheavals like we're experiencing now with the coronavirus and economic upheavals. So when we first proposed this, we situated it within the context of extreme events. And so the goal of NATURA is really nature-based solutions for urban resilience in the Anthropocene. And that's where the acronym comes from. And the goal here is to exchange knowledge, share data, enhance communication, and enhance global co-learning among a network of networks. And to do that, we recognize that we need to do this work across disciplines in the research component, but also across the research practice divide in terms of how to build resilience to these kinds of challenges in urban spaces. It also comes out of a recognition, both from the literature, from experience on the ground, from some of the networks and that us collectively are a part of, that there are unintended consequences in investing in nature-based solutions. Sometimes they're working well in some places and not so much in others. And so the goal of this is very much to build a global network of networks. So I'm going to give you some examples, as Nancy said, at high level of how we'll do that, and then we'll jump into it with a little bit more depth. First of all, when we wrote this initial proposal to the U.S.
Simon,
National
if you advance the slide, it hasn't advanced.
I did not, and it still doesn't want to advance on me. I may have to have someone else share. I'm not quite sure why Zoom is causing me problems today.
Simon, would you like me to try?
Could you, Elizabeth, and just see if that fixes it? However, I do have an updated version, so I don't know if you have it open.
I have it. Let's see.
Okay, great.
You can just go down to the slide we want.
Can you see my slides, or do you see?
We can. We also
presenter
see the
view?
next one.
It's presenter view.
You see presenter view. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Now, do you see my slide?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. That's the perfect slide. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
So this project is funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation. It's a 5-year project funded for USD $22 million. And that is something that we're hoping to leverage across the network to meet some of the goals that I just mentioned. When we first started, 26 networks provided letters and support as part of the actual proposal to fund this network. And now that's growing and growing pretty steadily. So There's over 30 networks, not all of ones are mentioned here. But as you've heard a little bit from the introduction of some of the coordinating committee members, we have networks from across Europe and European projects that have developed networks around nature-based solutions, like the Connecting Nature, Naturevation, Enable projects, and others. There's networks from, for example, from the African Center for Cities, from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and some global networks like IUCN's Urban Alliance, ICLE, the Future Earth Urban Knowledge Action Network, and then those that have done a lot of work in this realm related to long-term ecological research, including the LTERs in the United States, as well as the International LTER Network. So there's a number of networks that are already part of this, and we hope to grow that, but also leverage, again, the learning across these networks and to share that. If you can advance to the next screen, Elizabeth. So we focus this also around a few key gaps that we've noticed both in research and practice from our work in this area, working across a core group that kind of pulled this project together. One is to think about the role and the way in which we operationalize nature-based solutions in the context of urban systems. And so we've applied, at least initially, a set of identifiable gaps to some extent from the literature and to some extent from practice that one might roughly approximate to this systems approach, saying that if there are socio-ecological interactions that are affecting both the supply, the management, the demand for nature-based solutions, there's also social technical interactions, technical ecological interactions. And so these gaps, we, at least initially in proposing this as a project and getting it funded as a network of networks, suggested that there's at least these 5 areas that we need to be working on. Synergistic benefits of bundles of NBS, that we need to better understand the social cultural context, the ecological biophysical context, the technological infrastructure context, as well as the interactions among those contexts, given that, of course, in real time, these components of urban systems are interacting dynamically and affect whether or not, say, an NBS for improving cooling during hot summers is really effective, and who is it effective for. So embedded in this, not explicit, something we would like to make explicit, and we'll talk about a bit more how we'll do that over the next half hour or so, are questions of how to implement nature-based solutions in different locales around the world, and in what locations do particular kinds of NBS really work, or what are the equity and justice concerns associated with NBS investments as they're taking off in cities around the world. A whole suite of questions that we're really looking to this network to help to articulate. So at this point, we're really only providing a bit of a frame to move that forward. Next slide, please, Elizabeth. So the goals, as I've kind of mentioned, is synthesis, sharing data and information and learning across the network, to have a core group and a coordinating committee that can help coordinate this network. And the way in which we've envisioned doing this is through in-person all-hands meetings, through a series of webinars, through thematic working groups that can be both in-person and virtual, through the formation of regional nodes, which we have around the world, 5 major regional nodes with leaders of those nodes to help pull together the regional networks as part of the global network of networks, and as well as synthesis workshops where we try to bring our learning across the globe together. So 2 particular areas, which I won't say very much, just to introduce, are learning exchanges. The learning exchanges are where we hope to train the next generation of experts, both researchers and practitioners, on applications of NBS in a global context and in a global urban systems context, including early career researchers and practitioners that can spend time in person at institutions or locations around the world to deepen their own knowledge, to share their expertise in that local context. Thematic working groups are designed to create opportunities to deepen the peer learning through focus groups that, as I mentioned, may pick up a particular topic and say, this is of global interest, that we really advance our understanding around this particular theme within the context of nature-based solutions for urban resilience. And we will be inviting international students to participate in these exchanges, again, to promote both the training and learning of younger scholars and practitioners together with those that have more expertise. Next slide, Elizabeth. So I'll just mention, because it's probably on everyone's mind, we had sent out a save the date for the first in-person all hands meeting. We'll talk a little bit more about the structure of these later, but that has been planned for June 16 to 18 in Marseille. And one of the reasons for that is because of the IUCN World Congress that's happening just before that. And so we knew that a number of individuals and institutions in these networks would be in attendance. And so we've kind of piggybacked on that, which is a goal of leveraging resources as effectively as possible for our all hands meetings and potentially for working group meetings as well. So we will be evaluating that over the next couple of weeks as IUCN is, together with the French government, as the coronavirus evolves, and we will endeavor to let everyone know whether that's going forward by the end of this month. And we're already thinking of ways that, one, we could push it off if we need to, other, how we can facilitate more virtual all hands meetings, something that we do have experience with among our core group within the Urban Resilience to Extreme Events network. So I'm gonna stop here and just say that the other activities, as I mentioned, are these thematic working groups, the learning exchanges, and some processes for that. And if you go to the next slide, I think this is, yes, where I'll transition to Yuan, who has been helping coordinate this project and also has been providing leadership on the surveys that we asked all of you to fill out, so we could all kind of get to know our own sort of collective thinking around this topic. Thanks, Yuan.
Thank you, Timon. Hello, everyone. As I introduced earlier, my name is Yawan Kim. I'm a postdoc with NATURA and then the Urban Regions to Extremes network program. And so thanks to everyone who responded to the survey scan. So before we talking about what are the thematic working groups with the 5 gaps, knowledge gaps that we identified earlier in social, ecological, and technology system with nature-based solutions, we asked our network members to identify what they think is the most challenging knowledge gap and urban resilience challenges that we are facing around the world in the near and the far future. So far we got 121 responses as of yesterday, but we ran the analysis based on the results, primary results on 120 responses on January 5th earlier this year, and then these graph shows that what are the regional distribution of the survey responses. So we had a big turnout from the North America. Maybe this is because we have a largest network biggest or the largest number of networks in the North America. But now we are planning to expand our network more globally, trying to include more more African, Asian, Pacific, and Latin American networks as well. Next slide, please. So the first question we asked, what do you think in the next 10 years that is the single most important emerging challenge in urban resilience? So you can see that, urban climate and water and resilience infrastructure came out frequently out of responses. And as you can see that we kind of organize these keywords based on different themes. We can be later on developed into our thematic working groups in terms of social, ecological, and technological systems. And some of the themes such as urban systems and the decarbonization, they are evolved around 2 or more system perspectives. So we can start from here that organizing this natural network working on what are the most challenges to solve in relate to nature-based solutions. So we can see that climate phenomena often showed up in the survey as the most challenge, and then the social economic issues including inequality, justice, safety, and politics, and then urban systems of course. And then also people mention frequently about the decarbonizing technologies and how to produce clean energy in the future, and also some of the basic ecosystem challenges. Next slide, please. And then we asked again, what do you think is the single most important challenge in the long-term future in looking at 2080? And then you can see that some of these themes remain the same, but people respond differently in terms of prioritizing these different issues and challenges. So you can see that in the near future, people identified infrastructure can be one of the most challenging, but then later on, people more focused on the social aspect and the people aspects of it. So you can see that, you know, we can plan for the near future and then far future to focus on. Next slide, please. And the next question, we also asked about what knowledge gap in nature-based solutions are poorly understood at the moment. And we also asked this question for near and then far future. And then for these questions, people a lot responded on, we have a big gap in understanding how to implement the nature-based solutions in terms of funding and how to monitor performances. And we need more, we need less technocentric, but more like ecosystem focused nature-based solutions. Also, people mentioned a lot of how to manage data, how to share data across networks. Some of the other responses also focused on how we work on synergies of nature-based solutions with other climate change adaptation strategies, and also working on food network web using the nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. And then if you look at this question in the future term, again, you can see that these themes remain the same, but people also prioritize differently on different themes going into the further future. That's people more focused on how to design the nature-based solution when they are looking more further in the future. Also, they talk about how to scale up, how to scale in terms of implementing nature-based solutions going into the future. And next slide, please. So lastly, we asked the network, as a network of networks, how can NATURA visions the vision working on this nature-based solution related problems and challenges? And then people responded that it is really important to have a broader impact as a collaborating network and networks. And to avoid duplicate efforts across the different networks, and also trying to have a more broad public stakeholder engagement and have a broader impact. So they came mostly as an important issue. And then they were also emphasized how important to support the early career scientists that we will support through the learning exchange programs, and then also mentioned about science data advancements and the diversity and inclusivity. So from here, we can hand this over to Elizabeth, and then we can talk about how these learning exchanges will occur. Or maybe Nancy. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Yohan. Elizabeth, are you ready to go?
I think
Oh, no,
actually
it's me.
the slide's you, yep.
Okay, so we're going to move into this instead of the thematic groups. So I want to talk to you about the learning exchanges that we, excuse me, that we are planning. Here, I'll unmute my video so you see that I'm a real person. So the learning exchanges are meant to provide opportunities for students in early career academics and practitioners to explore nature-based solutions for urban resilience by spending time in residence with other networks. So this should support a greater depth of analysis or synthesis by extending the time of interaction, sort of a individual to individual level rather than a large network to network level. We also really do want to emphasize that in addition to this focus on early career researchers, we want to the extent possible, to support practitioner-researcher interaction through exchanges in these worldwide networks. So the idea that we have budgeted for is to have either 5-week or 15-week visits. The 15-week visits would be, these longer term visits would be like a graduate student or potentially a postdoctoral student spending a semester in some other area. The other 5 weeks would either be for graduate students and postdoctoral students or for early career researchers. And what I mean by that is pre-tenure faculty or early career practitioners, let's say something in the first 8 to 10 years post degree. And so we also really, I mean, to ask the question how your network can be involved in this, there are several ways that you can be involved. One is as hosts for these early career researchers or practitioners. Any network that's a member of NATURA can be a host. You have to obviously be willing to host that person for some period of time. And what we plan to do, and we're working on getting this up relatively soon, is to have a simple host entry questionnaire where you can identify what people are willing to be hosts, what institutions in your network, and we'll maintain that list of hosts associated with the website so that people who are interested in applying can go to the website and find the potential host. Networks can also be involved as funders through providing opportunities for international students to participate. One of the problems with NSF funding is that it's restricted to US citizens. And so although we have a number of networks that are US based, we can send US students and early career researchers and practitioners around the world, we cannot support international students. So we'd love to have this be more of an exchange. And to do that, we would need to have some networks step in with potential funds to support this. Finally, if you have a network, if you have members in your network who are eligible to apply for these early career exchanges, we would love for networks to be involved by communicating to their members about the opportunity, encouraging them to apply, and providing letters of support for applicants. So those are, this is really a broad overview of what we hope to do in these exchanges, but I want to emphasize that we really see these exchanges as the core of what we're trying to do with NATURA. We really want, most of the budget is actually devoted to participant support costs to support these learning exchanges, as well as the thematic working groups that Elizabeth is about to tell you about. So we really hope that this will be a way to get young people sort of going around the world and interacting with each other. I think is one of the best ways to really advance our understanding of nature-based solutions and how they will apply in different situations and so forth. We are going to have a proposal process, an application process for the learning exchanges that will probably parallel the application process for the thematic working groups. Individuals would submit short proposals. They would describe the work that they hope to accomplish, the goals, the primary questions, and the location of the work and why it's appropriate to meet those goals. And then we would ask those applicants to also provide a letter of commitment from the host network and a letter of support from the source network, identifying them as a member of the network and so forth. And then, you know, the standard biological or biographical information, including their activities associated with their network. So all of this information will become available on the website, and both the learning exchanges and the thematic working groups are intended to start in year 2, which begins in October. But there is a chance that we can get something started early if there's somebody that's really chomping at the bit to get going. So we intend to move on now with the next section and reserve questions for a period at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Elizabeth. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. So as Nancy said, in addition to the learning exchanges, we are also interested in hosting these thematic working groups. And this is an opportunity for the global co-learning that Timon mentioned at the beginning. And we hope that these thematic working groups will create opportunities really for digging into learning and synthesis both within and across the NATURA networks on particular topics that emerge from our discussions in the webinars, in these webinars that we're having now, at the all hands meetings, and other discussions you're having among yourselves. So the thematic working groups are meant to be groups that can be small or large, depending on who's interested in joining, but they should be inclusive of representatives from the global network, not just your own network. And ideally, they'd include both researchers, practitioners, and also early career representatives, because as Nancy said, we believe that one of the key ways to really advance this knowledge and move it forward is by being inclusive of the early career representatives. And the goal here is that it's an opportunity for groups to build knowledge and tools through synthesis and comparison of your own and across network data, research, strategies, challenges, and successes. And we imagine that the topics might come from what we originally proposed that Timon presented at the beginning, the social, cultural context of nature-based solutions, or a focus on ecological biophysical context, or the technological infrastructure. But it might also be ideas that have come out of the Horizon survey that Johan spoke about, whether that's issues on equity or the synergies or management of data, or it might be something else that comes up as we continue our discussions through these webinars and the all hands meetings. We expect that the working groups will meet virtually, largely, in large part, but we do have funding through NATURA for some in-person workshops. And we will set up an RFP process for this, which we expect will have probably 2 deadlines per year, and we'll have funding to support 2 in-person workshops per year. And those in-person workshops can be approximately 5 days with about 8 people. So you might have a larger group, a more extensive group, but then a core group that meets in person for these workshops once you have a really specific goal that you're working towards, or a particular outcome or product. And as Nancy said, there are a couple of ways to get involved. One, of course, is by organizing and proposing a working group and starting to have these conversations among yourselves and across the networks. But also by, if you have additional funding through your own network where you can support someone or representative to participate in a particular working group, and of course by spreading the word and making sure that people are aware that these opportunities exist. So the thematic working groups are really broadly proposed and open for any ideas that you have, and we welcome continuing the conversation on what these might look like and letting that evolve also as the network evolves over the next couple of years. And that is all I have to say about that. So I'll switch slides, and I think we're going to have, yeah, go ahead, Nancy.
Me again. Yeah, I think I want to, let me just check on this. Yeah, I think we can talk about this later. So what we want to do now is open up for questions and discussion. I just wanted to clarify one thing about the learning exchanges, which Timon pointed out, and I'm pretty sure that this is correct, but I need to check on it. I don't think that the learning exchanges that we can fund from NATURA are restricted to US citizens, but rather to students, postdocs, and others associated with US institutions. So I don't believe that, I think I misspoke on that. So I think that it's open to more people, but still not open to everybody in all the networks in the program. We need to build up support from our partner networks in order to make these opportunities and these exchanges truly exchanges that that make it possible for international students from other countries to come to the US or to go somewhere else in the world. So that's just a clarification there. So what I'd like to do is open up for questions and discussion, and for the next 15 minutes or so. Thank you everybody for staying on time. So it's a lot to pack into an hour. I do want to point out that on the top of the slide, you see the naturanet-net.org, which you can go to for our website if you haven't seen it already. And the proposal is actually on the website, available on the website, so you can look in more detail at what we had proposed originally. So I'll just open it up, and I will remind you that if you want to speak up, you can raise your hand. That will help to organize it. But you can also just go ahead and speak up, but please tell us who you are and what your network is.
So hi, I raised my hand. This is, hello. So this is Marta Verbes from, hey Nancy, from the Urban Resilience to Extreme Events and the CAP-LTR network. And I'm just wondering, how do we find out who is in the network? Like if I want to propose a working group, besides the people that I already know who you know, are the people from the UREX and the CAP, how do I find out like who else is involved?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know, Elizabeth, did you have something on that in the thematic working groups? I mean, we had intended for these to spring from the all hands meetings and the Horizon Scan survey. And so I think it would be a question of providing information on the website and potentially chat rooms on the website where people can get together and discuss these ideas. Since they aren't intended to start until the second year, we have some time to sort of have those form, and we want to finish this Horizon Scan exercise and get that information out to everybody so that we can sort of initially start. We don't want to impose what the thematic working groups are, but if these things are emerging from the Horizon Scan, then I think that will be a good starting point.
Can I just add to that, Marta? I think it's a really good question, because right now on the website we have lists of networks, and as new networks are joining NATURA, we need to update that, so it's not comprehensive yet. So there's some basic updates there. But I think your question is more if there was an individual in a network that you might want to talk with, or you know, a particular collection of individuals. And so one thing I think we could do probably very quickly is put the point of contact for each network that is the, you know, our point of contact for NATURA with their contact info. I think this is the kind of thing we want to make sure everyone is comfortable with that, and then we can move forward with that. And then perhaps maybe a next, and I'm just coming up with ideas here because I think that's part of what we want to do on this webinar is use the collective understanding here of how best to coordinate a network like this. And one might be that for each network in the network of networks, that there is a list of names that's beyond the coordinating committee. For example, people who have kind of put their hand up and said, I want to be more active here. And so that's something we could ask each of our networks to provide, is a sort of core group from their network, in addition to a point of contact. And we can make that available pretty easily on the website, but we haven't to date. I think that's a good next step. Thanks for prompting.
And just one more point on that is that we are going to have to rely on you all, the points of contact that we have for each of the networks to communicate with your network. Some of our networks have hundreds of people involved in them, and there's no way that we can, you know, we can get a big list, and we'll start to accumulate a big list, where we can send out to everyone on that list, but that will grow slowly, and it will only grow when the points of contact give us the information about who should be added. And so we'll have to get a mechanism together for that. I have David Maddox hand up. Yes, Elizabeth, sorry.
I just wanted to add one other thing, which I think Marta brings up a good point, is because we don't all know everyone and we won't all be at the first all hands meeting, for example. I think we will need to create a mechanism for offering working group, opening them up to the, you know, putting out the proposal so that anyone can join if they're interested, because they may not know about it otherwise.
Yeah.
David Maddox.
Thank you.
Hi, this is David Maddox from the Nature of Cities. I'm curious to the leadership group, where do you view the frontiers, the edges of the groups that you're talking about? So as an example, I was curious about whether you're interested in art engagements with respect to embedding artists in research institutions, for example.
Sure, that sounds great to me.
So
I mean,
I think.
Yeah, go ahead, Johan.
Go ahead, sorry. Yeah, I think we are going to talk about this later on for the next steps of going forward with the webinar. But we are planning to invite our networks to introduce their network. What are their expertise? What are their focus related to nature-based solutions? And then this will help us to forming, you know, what all are specialized in related to nature-based solutions. And then that will also naturally form the interest groups based on their expertise. So for example, the nature of cities, maybe people who are interested in arts related to nature-based solutions, they will form a group naturally from there. I don't know if that answers.
Yes, thank you. It goes a little bit to the definition of practitioner in the context of this network of works. So I'm happy that broad definition is welcome here.
One quick
so.
comment, and we'll go to the next hand up, is I think we have a very broad concept of that, but the networks that are involved here may already have a particular type of people that they're involving. And so I suspect artists, and there's other groups that would be amazing to engage, are not going to be as easy to reach out to with our current networks. I mean, Nature of Cities is a bit of an exception there, but some of the other networks less so. So this is something we need to be strategic about too, I think, is how do we better reach out to other networks that aren't already in this.
Okay, we have Rick de Vries.
Good afternoon for me in Belgium. I'm representing the European Forum on Urban Forestry, replacing Natalie. But I'm also coordinating a research project, which is a network in itself of 26 partners within Europe and China. We are Horizon 2020 funded for the European partners. So I was wondering, in how far can a research project be part of the network of networks?
I'll start with that, but I suspect Nancy has a view on this too. We have research projects that have built or identified themselves as a network that, and in many of the cases of the research projects, they're networks that include researchers and practitioners. So there's already precedent for a project like you're describing to be part of the network. I think, our goal was to take a broad view of what a network is, but not such a broad view that every individual is a network, or that every project is automatically a network, that those projects are at least identifying part of what they do as bringing a network of diverse minds together around it. So it's not to exclude projects, it's to include them, but with some kind of fuzzy boundary there. So I think the answer is yes. But
yeah, I think it is. I think one of the real challenges here is when we got this thing funded was, we went to a NSF workshop on team science, and I was thinking, what does this have to do with networks of networks? Because networks of networks is a really complicated concept. It's hard enough to get your own network going, but then when you're thinking about bringing together networks that may have, anywhere from 10 people to hundreds of people involved in them, it's difficult. So I think our goal is to be as inclusive as possible. We do have to, within the constraints of what we have available to fund, we have to stick with the core networks that we identified in the proposal, but with maybe a couple of additions, and that's just because of the funding. But there may be things for which we can certainly open it up, and the website, our intention with that is to be as open as possible.
Well, related to funding, the European Forum on Urban Forestry is a non-funded network, but our research project has funds, particularly for knowledge exchange. So there's a lot of, well, I see more potential funding opportunities through the research project than through the existing network. But I suggest discuss later and one-to-one how to process or to proceed.
I think that would be, and it would seem reasonable for you to say this project is part of the European Forum for Forestry, and so therefore, that's where the funds are coming from, is the project, and that seems perfectly reasonable to me. Luis Ortiz has got his hand up.
Hi everyone, this is Luis Ortiz from the UREX project, or the Urban Resilience to Extreme Event Projects. I'm a postdoc there, and my question is, since especially at the early career postdoc stage are usually filled with sort of very temporary appointments, how does affiliation to a network is considered by you guys and the NATURA project in that case, when people might be moving in and out of positions relatively quickly compared to the length of the project itself?
Yeah, well, Luis, that our view in UREX is that once a fellow, always a fellow. So, I think you can claim membership in the UREX network, as long as you're an early career researcher. That's my view of it. I did want to point out that one of the things that we're hoping that Johan will start to organize is a network within the network of networks, to make things even more complicated, of early career researchers. And so we would want to develop these lists of names of people who are working on, Bonnie Keeler has suggested names of people in the networks who are interested in this topic with keywords of what they are working on. But we also want to develop under that a network of early career researchers, so that you all sort of can have some things that maybe you'll do together, so that we can strengthen that group of people within the NATURA. Rob McDonald, hi.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, everybody. This is Rob McDonald from the Nature Conservancy. So for those of you who don't know us, we work in about 25 cities in the US and about another 5 or 6 internationally on nature-based solutions. So we're both a network of practitioners and sort of places that could host academics, but also have a lot of research scientists who I hope I can bring into this network. So I guess that's the introduction. The question I had, Nancy, for you and others was, I want to make sure that I'm introducing these possibilities to TNC urban staff at the right moment, sort of. And so I guess the question for the learning exchanges and for the working group sort of idea is, what's the application process? Or it sounds like you may have an RFP at some point out. Like, I can go in and sign up as a potential host institution, and I think we'd be really interested in that. But I also want to not introduce this to a bunch of folks who are then going to send emails and say, well, how do I apply? And so what's the right moment to start introducing this set of possibilities to people who aren't on the webinar today, but who might be very interested in hosting an academic who wants to work on an actual installation of nature-based solutions, for example?
That's a great question. I think we're going to target trying to get these procedures ironed out and get the first call for, we'll probably have the first call for applications for thematic working groups and for early career learning exchanges sometime this summer, I'm guessing, maybe late summer, because as I said, they were meant to start in year 2, which begins October 1. And so all of the things will be announced through an email, but also the website will have all this information on it as well.
I think, Rob, it would be great to let your urban network within Nature Conservancy know that NATURA exists and to keep an eye on it and to ask interesting questions of how we can do a better job coordinating this network of networks. Now, rather than say, wait until there's an RFP, because my hope would be that Nature Conservancy, like other networks, could serve as hosts, but may also want to, send people as part of either leading a working group or sending some early career people from TNC to other institutions or networks. And so, of course, the funding, the RFP and call for proposals will be an important stage, but my hope also would be to learn from how the networks are running their own networks and how we can leverage that kind of learning, as well as some prompts for, as we've already had today, things that NATURA can do over the next 6 months in advance of these other exchanges. So I guess my general comment to Nature Conservancy and everyone was, please spread the word and to keep an eye on this and then be responsive when there are prompts. And I'll also just note that, Bonnie suggested, it's something we've talked about quite a bit, of regular newsletters that would sort of crowdsource from all the networks what's happening in this general field all across the globe. And these are the kinds of things that will be their own, I think, hopeful product and be useful across the network, regardless of these other sort of exchanges.
One other way that you can get your network involved right away is through distributing, and I know you sent us a note saying that you hadn't seen the survey yet. Our intention in sending that out to the points of contact was that then it would be distributed throughout those networks so that we would have individuals who are interested in this responding to it. And one of the reasons why we have so many from North America is that the LTER network has a really well-developed communication system. And so thousands of scientists were spammed with this, and I think many of them were interested in answering the survey, and so that's why we had so many North American responses. So so that's to everyone. That's we would be very appreciative of your sending things out to your networks, but we'll also very soon have a request for lists, names and contact information for people who want to stand up and be involved in this project. So thank you. Duvan Lopez.
Hi everybody, I'm Duvan Lopez from Barcelona, representing RecNet and UNESCO SOS, the UNESCO Chair on Sustainability. My question, Nancy and everybody, because I see like a strong potential in the learning exchanges for practitioners. And are you considering to implement these learning exchanges for practitioners in one direction from the states to the different countries, or or are you considering it also in the both directions from the countries to the states, for example? Because I see like a strong potential with this. This is very attractive for institutional partners, for sure. And then also how we can approach to these institutional partners in our countries also to promote their participation in this possibility.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Devan. As I stated earlier, we have the funding to support US people from US institutions to go elsewhere for these learning exchanges. But to make them true exchanges, we would be very interested in having other networks that may have funding to support students or early career researchers or practitioners to come to the US, or even to go to another place, or say somebody from Europe to go to South America or to go to Asia or something like that. So we'd love to have it be true exchanges, but for that we're going to have to gin up some interested networks that might have some funding available to send their members to other places. Yeah. I see that we're very close to the end and we have one more slide if we could advance to that. This is just to give you, and I don't see any other hands up, so success in that regard. Thank you all for your questions. We wanted to introduce one thing that we would very much like to do starting next month, which is to have a monthly webinar of this sort where we do essentially round robin for networks to present, to showcase what they're doing in nature-based solutions, what their network is all about, who are the members, what are the questions you're trying to answer, what kind of ways do you see being involved in Natura. And we think we can do this with 2 networks per webinar, so that would be 30 minutes of time, allowing some time for questions from the webinar audience. And we have a sign up. You can see the link there. We'll also make this available soon in an email to everyone. And we will put these slides, yes, in answer to your question, we'll put these up on the website. So a webinar sign up. So we'd love to get people, and we may lean on some of you to get started for next month. But we figure we can hit a large number of networks by next year if we get started on this. We want the networks to introduce what they do and to explore the work that they're doing on nature-based solutions in different contexts, and to in particular emphasize the kind of engagement that you're doing with practitioners, between practitioners and researchers, and with cities and so forth. Time in.
Thanks, Nancy. Just a quick comment on this. Our thinking was that this time is late in some part of the world and very early in others, but actually could work as a single time instead of duplicating multiple times. So it'd be good to hear from people whether this time could work or something very near this as we start to schedule, these monthly webinars. Second is our thinking was to give enough time for networks to really showcase themselves. Was a network would take up a full webinar, but I could also imagine that we would split it in 2, but that would make it quite tight if we really wanted to cover more of the networks within, say, the first 12 months. But so anyway, any feedback you have, you're welcome to provide in the chat or direct emails or any other way of contacting us, so that we can start to organize that. And then, as Nancy said, we'll sign up. And I'll just mention a couple things, and then any of the core group that has some closing comments, great to close. But we will follow up, as Nancy said, on email, the website, and Twitter in terms of a recording of this, the presentations, and any important links, like where you can sign up for a webinar, the main website, and others. And then, as we've been discussing, we're moving forward on developing the protocols and processes to be able to put up forward RFPs for the learning exchanges and the thematic working groups by midsummer, late summer. But we'll also be working on things like starting to launch a crowdsourced newsletter from across the networks, where we can do, I think one of the core things for Natura is not to replicate what's happening in a network, but to truly be a network of networks, where we're pulling together the things that any one network is doing in their region or with their constituency, but may not be able to message out to all the other networks. And so we're hoping to really make some progress on that, and we'll keep you up to date, again, through the website, by targeted emails to points of contacts within the networks, and especially as we can start to pull in more information from the core individuals in every network that want to be included on these regular emails, so that process doesn't always rely on just a single person to make it happen. I may have left out some things, so Elizabeth, Yuan, or Nancy, if you have anything else to close. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time today.
I want to thank everybody for joining us, and we'll look forward to meeting with you all and more on a monthly basis, and getting some things going. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone for joining us today, and please expect the follow-up emails with the recording of this meeting and the survey links and the webinar sign-up links and future plans. Thank you, everyone.